Thank you, folks. Thank you all. I'll also remind us that we have friends joining us at home as well, doing this virtually. So we're excited to make you a part of this as well. I think the camera's somewhere, probably there. It gives me great pleasure to bring to the stage the director, Jim Bernfield. Jim, thank you so much. Please, Jim. And two people who need no introduction, Chris Jones. Where's Chris? Thank you, Chris. Along with Marybeth Kodal. Marybeth, thank you so much. And we're pleased to have here Caroline Kohles to moderate this conversation. Of course, we're happy to make you a part of this as well and take your questions, as well as Colin will help us with questions from people at home. Thank you very much. Over to you, Caroline.
Chris, that was the first time, and Jim, that was the first time I've seen the film. And I remember you talking about it. As you look at it now, what are the memories that flood back to you? Like if you had a snapshot of some of the moments when you were performing the play, is there anything that came back to you right away?
Well, we cut out a lot of the play, just a little bit of it. Mm-hmm. But I remember telling a lot of jokes during rehearsal, and we didn't have many of those.
And Jim, how about for you?
There were a lot of Chris jokes, and they were welcome during rehearsal. As a film person, one thing that I didn't know about play people is that for us, you get there and like time is money. But if you're doing a play, you just get there and you sit down and you start telling a story about what you did 2 years ago at some other play with people that you interfaced with, and so it was kind of a joy to learn this way of being about being a stage actor. At the same time, it was for me, it was a return. My dad died of Parkinson's about 12 years before I started this project, and I hadn't processed it as well as I did when I got to see my friend Dan and my new friend Chris go through it. So it allowed me sort of the space to live it, see what it was like as a part of the Parkinson's family, if you will, again.
Beautiful. So it sounds to me like what you're saying, and I don't know if you guys experienced that too in watching the film, that there was a real sense of community, right, in the theater group, and that's different than the film. And Marybeth, how about for you? Do you sense that as a wife of an actor, that there's a real sense of community in the theater?
Definitely. And there's always like a rumor that doctor theater will cure. So if you have a headache and then you go and do a play, your headache disappears. But I don't think that was, I think the genius of Jim's directing is he had to choose a track for the play. And I know for the movie, Chris felt like, oh, we should see more of the play. But actually, you just had to be there for a play. And for the movie, I think it was sort of genius that he added in all the, Dr.
Daruk is here, yeah.
And he was in the movie, and, our lives, and that was like very generous. And rather than just like focusing so much, because that is the thing about theater too. It does take a lot from families, and, it takes a village.
I was also, and I want to know, with a raise of hands of the audience too, it was very dramatic, the film. I felt, tense, like, oh my gosh, are they going to do it? And so I really, in directing it and your editing, I thought was really brilliant, because I had that sense of drama and unfolding of a play within the film. Was that on purpose, or how did you?
Certainly, as a
that?
filmmaker, finding tension is really, really important. And I wasn't sure how it was going to go. It's a documentary. I didn't have a script, of course. There was about 2.5 years when you were in this movie, actually, as well. But for various purposes, I'll give a lot of credit to my editors, who were terrific in helping to shape this story. I mean, it really is sort of three stories: the story of these New York actors, story of what it's like to live with Parkinson's, and then and then sort of Beckett's story of that sort of 30,000-foot view of sort of those aphorisms about life with Parkinson's and what it meant to be that we tried to weave together. So it was hard, but it was also, and that's why it took so long to get from here to there. But I knew this was a story I really wanted to give a lot of heart and tension and drama to, so that people would want to see it and get something out of it.
I think
I did wonder with Jim, like, how do you get the drama? Because with Parkinson's, their responses are muted, and were there ever going to be, fist fights? There was never going to be anger, like outright. So I think you did a great job of teasing out the anger. And also, when I asked you about that, about what kind of conflict is this movie going to show, I think you said, like, these two guys are so nice, it's pretty hard to get them to have that conflict of, like...
The conflict for me is that as an actor, you have to live with being bad in a role until you're good in it. And you have to have faith that if you keep working at it, you'll get better. And it's hard to, sometimes it's hard to believe that because you stink.
So that's the drama.
Right.
So
Will
You
they
sort
get
of have,
better?
Chris, what I hear you saying is you kind of have to be willing to suck at it until you're better,
Yeah,
right?
sadly.
That is true of this project as well. It started out as like a 2.5-hour monograph from start to finish, and weaving it together and shortening things, removing things, adding things. That's part of the storytelling challenge of putting something creative together, which Chris is talking about too.
Chris, I remember when you first came to me and you told me about this idea, and I was like, wow, you're going to get permission to do the Endgame, and you were really excited. But tell me, when did the project actually start? Like, from start to finish, how long did this whole thing take?
Well, Dan called me up and said, how'd you like to do Endgame? I said, what do you mean do it? And he said, well, just read it in each other's apartments. We could take the roles, switch the roles off, just immerse ourselves in it for a little while, and then if we decide we'd like to go ahead with it, we'll do a production of it. And then the idea became, let's have a documentary film crew do it. And he got Jim because they were bar buddies.
I think there's a story there.
Sunday afternoon, and they both were, they were 49ers fans, who were the most psychotic of fans. And so they bonded, and Jim really is responsible for how great this movie is. He stuck by it for over 10 years, and
Wow.
it's through his perseverance, and he had to make a living while he was doing this and have a family. He deserves, and Dan deserves, great credit. It's just torture watching him lose the lines the day before we perform.
Yeah, I was wondering about that and how that was for you to see it again and to see that moment with your colleague and your friend.
I did a
struggling.
play subsequently to that, this movie, and I played a character in Shakespeare, Dogberry, and it's one of the what I call the not very funny clowns of Shakespeare. And I had a problem with lines in the dress rehearsal, which was the night before the first public preview. I called in the first of my 4 scenes line 10 times. So I know what he was going through. And I knew I just had to say something. I couldn't let it stop me. So the line I had was, the most peaceable way for you if you do meet a thief is to let him show himself and steal out of your company. And I said, tell him to go away. And I was cured.
There you go. There's that cure again, the theater cure again.
I will tell you about these guys. when we started the prep, we did a Indiegogo campaign, and I said to them, well, when should we like start rolling with this? When would you say, like when we reach about $20,000, we'll start? And they're like, sure. They called me and they said, we got our first $20, let's start. And so the drive to do this was really from Chris and Dan in a big way, and sometimes I had to juggle a lot of balls because they were moving forward, but it was worth it.
Right. Well, I was telling Angelina Flordalisi, who's the director of the Cherry Lane Theater, that I was going to be here today, and she was like, "Dan, Chris, I know their love of these two actors in the theater world really is deep and rich." So that was apparent, and that was just last night. So I loved that was commented on. Can we go back to this idea of Parkinson's? And Dr. DeRocco is in the audience. I wonder if anybody here has any questions seeing the film about Parkinson's in general, or does anyone? Are you familiar with Parkinson's? Yes, you are.
I've had it a long time, and believe it or not, she died at 92.
Wow.
You know what frustrated her the most? The speaking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she was getting like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she had like 24-hour care.
Yeah.
But, and she knew what was happening. That's just it.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting illness. It's known as the Snowflake Disease. It impacts people very differently. The symptoms are very different for each person. It's highly individual. And we've had a Parkinson's program here at the JCC Manhattan in partnership with Dr. DeRocco for how many years now? Almost 15? Yeah. Oh, your mom did. Yeah. Your cousin. Yeah. Awesome. Any comments, Dr. DeRocco, after seeing the film? I know Dan is your patient.
Well, the comments were, first of all, the film touched me in many different ways. Of course, I was indirectly part of the film because some of this reverberated with Dan when we were, discussing his symptoms and these anxieties. What touched me about the film was this sort of ability to portray, this complexity in which the struggle to get to the performance is almost like a metaphor of the life. That's the daily life. This sort of struggle between maintaining a certain function and losing it, between being able to do it at one moment and not doing it another one, and in a sort of an unsentimental way, in a very honest way in which this was portrayed, including Marybeth. I think your line was epic.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
About what's like to be, and how hard it is, and it's you can sort of play in a different way, but that sort of element, which is enriched by the elements of humanity, but the sense of loss and ability that remain, and of course is played with the script of the Endgame, which is about this. I thought it was really touching, real, and beautifully developed.
I agree, and Jim, I think I'd love to go back to you and what you were saying about your dad and having Parkinson's, and if you felt like the Endgame and watching them perform in a way was exactly what Dr. DeRocco was talking about, which is, gosh, this is actually reflective of the journey that we go on or someone goes on when they're living with Parkinson's, and if you witness that in your own dad.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my dad came to Parkinson's. I was, I think, in graduate school at the time, and it was fairly quick. It was a couple of years, 6 or 7 years of process, and it was just for a family. It was quite devastating. But I really sort of sublimated it myself. But when I went through this process with these guys, and we've sort of become like a troop or a family, sort of over the 9 years we spent putting this together and watching, experiencing, and talking on the phone or meeting up and such like that, and watching the process. I it's really been a gift to me, really, because as a sort of irascible kind of kid, I didn't really want to process this with my own dad, who was also sort of a tough patient. But to be with these guys and sort of have the opportunity, the real chance to try it again and process it in a way that could help other people see what the
Right.
journey's like, I found valuable for me, and I hope it's valuable for the audience too.
Well, and I also think that theater, and especially the ReelAbilities Film Festival in general, for me, when I watch a film or I go to see theater, it helps me evolve. And Chris, I was thinking about what you said at the end of the film, which is I got to play this part, and I liked who I was. I liked who I became, and every part teaches you something. And for me, that's what happens when I watch a film or when I go to the theater. I feel like it teaches me something. It opens up my horizons. Do you want to comment on that, Chris?
I don't think I can comment on it.
Have I left you speechless? That's
No, I think I said it.
Mhm. Well, I was thinking about you.
I was
go ahead.
grateful. I was grateful because I feel proud of it,
Yeah.
and I think it's a great legacy.
Yeah.
That I could have come across as a conceited or selfish or non-caring person, but I think I came across as a decent human being,
Yeah.
and I'm glad of that.
And I've had the opportunity to meet and interview your kids for our series called Getting Personal with Parkinson's, and Whitney has actually as well, and also our Broadway Best for Parkinson's, and they're remarkable.
Yeah.
Marybeth, you were
Well,
going to say something.
I wanted to say that Hayden is here, who's also
Oh,
been
hey.
indirectly.
Hi.
And since with the hat on, since we shot the movie, he's graduated college. And
Oh, that's nice.
so I think that the JCC program here has done such a great job of really supporting the folks with Parkinson's, but also the families. And I honestly don't think that Chris would be still, he's considering a Broadway play in the fall.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
He would not be anywhere near being able to keep memorizing lines and working. He was on a TV show like a few months ago. It's really, I have to say, it's thanks to the JCC Parkinson's program, because he has, and your exercise class in particular, because exercise makes such a big difference. And, Chris has been able to maintain, I do find myself very annoying in the film, but I'm a little loud and whiny, but
Well,
I think that, I think we're so grateful to the JCC for showing the film and for all the Parkinson's programs
yeah.
that keep people going.
Yeah, we are so welcome. And we have the Parkinson's Walk that's coming up. So if anybody wants to join our JCC team, you can do that. Jim, what's your next project? What are you working on now?
Well, you never want to sort of like talk about projects that are in sort of the early part of gestation as they are, but I'm continuing to write, and when I was doing this, I directed a lot of television commercials, mostly for political candidates, and I've done a little bit of that, but I've now moved on to working for a nonprofit that works for human rights. So,
Wow.
so I'm
Beautiful.
continuing to try to help people in a public sort of forum like that. But yeah.
Wonderful. Yitzi, anything else? Or Colin, do we have any? No? Okay.
Any
Any
questions
questions
from our
from the
audience?
audience? Oh, yes. We have one. No, it's okay. We'll bring you a mic. This is Whitney Chapman, I think. Yes.
Hi. So, Chris, what continues to inspire you?
My family, my kids, and my wife. I think I'm coming to the end of my creative spurt. It's just getting harder and harder to do simple tasks. but Marybeth mentioned the Broadway play. It's a small part in Three Sisters, a Chekhov play. And I don't think I have the energy or the stamina, or I don't think I could do it anymore. So I had a, she mentioned I did a TV thing a couple of months ago, and I didn't know any of the lines really, but I reasoned, I can say I can't do it. They offered it to me. Or I could say, let's try to do it. And I tried, and it was successful. So I don't know if that chip runs out, whether it's a good bet anymore.
And I know Chris well to hear him say this, but he also tends to also try it. So if I was a gambler, my bet would be that he's probably going to be performing. Marybeth, anything else you wanted to finish with?
No, thank you to Jim for staying with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a real testament to your filmmaking perseverance, and it's a beautiful film. So many people have worked on it, and I love the graphics and the music, and I think it's also a bit of a love letter to New York City. Sure. The city looks beautiful, so it's great for Parkinson's, but it's got a lot of
and it's
ambiance.
It's great because it's so slow, which is good for Parkinson's. There's a joke that goes, a snail is mugged by two caterpillars and goes to the police to report the crime. The desk sergeant said, "Can you give me a description of the assailants?" And the snail says, "I don't know, it all happened so fast."
So usually I have to say in my class, my exercise class that Chris takes, we often end with a joke from Chris. So that's the perfect ending tonight.
I think we should do that at all of our Q&As. We'll see how that goes. Not all will be as funny. I want to thank you all so much for doing this. Caroline, thank you so much for leading this fabulous panel. Thank you for the fantastic film. Thank you for being here. Folks, tell your friends. It's available virtually as well, and we're excited to include it here at ReelAbilities. Coming up next, we have Any Given Day at 7:30. Please join us for that. We're here all week. Thank you, and have a good night.